So 10 years. It doesn't seem like a long time, but equally, time has just sped by. If you look back on my earlier YouTube videos, because I've been doing YouTube for something like 12 years, you'll see that I have a beautiful head of flowing blonde locks, and somehow I've gone grey in that time. When I think about it, it seems like no time at all, but equally when I think about it, all of the things that I've done in those 10 years, and this is my uncomfortable segue into the world of 3D printing, because 10 years ago, 3D printing was basically, well, there's a load of janky old 3D printers you had to put together yourself, and in that 10-year space, and you look at 3D printers now, boy, have they come a long way. And when you think about 3D printing companies, you probably don't think about many of them actually. You'll be thinking about something like Anycubic, Anycubic, Reality, Create, Bamboo, of course, and a few others I'm sure I've missed. And then a whole host of cheap replications that you still have to put together with your own screwdriver in about 5 hours of your own time. But it's come such a long way so quickly. And there's one particular company, Anycubic, have been around for 10 years. It is in fact their 10-year anniversary. I didn't know this until I looked it up, but they've been around for 10 years. And they came out in 2015 with, I think it was a Delta printer that they produced. They're one of the first people to produce Delta printers that were affordable, if you like, affordable and reliable. And they've been going 10 years. And because of that, they're having a bit of an anniversary celebration. If you jump over to their website, you'll see the kind of things that they're doing for it. But it's various giveaways and coupons and price reductions. And they sent me one of their machines to actually highlight. It is, in fact, the Cobra S1 combo. Now, if you think about it, we live in a market-based economy, and that is based on conflict. If you think about all these companies fighting with each other for sales, they're engaged in conflict. Now, that's both a good and a bad thing, obviously, but on the good side, it does bring change. And change is a bit of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it could be change for change's sake, and they may change a design or a colour or something like that. On the other hand, a change can frequently be an improvement on what went before. Now, I get approached endlessly by companies to do advertising videos, which I steadfastly refuse to do unless it meets some criteria. The first one is, I think it's got to be interesting to you guys. It's got to have genuine interest. And the other thing is, it's got to be different. There's got to be something about it that just isn't a change of colour. Something about it that I think is an improvement on what went before. And Anycubic approached me with this, their S1 combo. So yes, this is going to be a video about the S1 combo where we're going to have a look at it. Now, some people may think that as advertising. I suppose in a sense it is, but equally, I think that there's something new and interesting about this that will be of interest to quite a few people. So we're going to look at this S1 combo, and to be honest, I'm relatively excited about it. Let's get it out of the box and have a look at the beast itself. Yes, it's weighty. There are times when you could do with a hand. This will be the combi unit, 100%. There we go. Wow. Alright, so normally I just go at it and see what comes through, but the instruction bit is there, and I usually check it out just to make sure that I've removed everything. Yeah. So far so good. Okay, and there it is out the box. Now I did have to do a couple of other things, so I checked the book, and it never hurts to check the book. But in here are 3 retaining screws to hold the bed plate, and they're clearly marked with red arrows. You have to remove those. Now, there are several really cute things about it, and some really great things about it. Some of the cute things really are the decisions that they've made in the construction that I would have never have thought of, to be honest. So, for example, this is a bit of plastic, a bit of smoked plastic, and I always thought glass was better, but then I realised that people were dropping their glass and smashing it. And I just thought, well, how do you drop it? But I could see people drop it and smash it, and then it becomes ridiculously expensive to replace. These things, of course, are next to impossible to smash. So I thought there's a design decision based on that. That was pretty cute, actually. Now, it is 250 by 250 by 250, and of course it's 600 millimeters per second, and it's Core XY as a basic idea. Steel frame, plastic enclosure, some steel bits on the important bits. So nicely constructed, thought out machine. We'll go into it a bit more deeply, but one of the really standout things is this. This is one of the reasons I think it's so different, actually. Now, if you look at this, it just looks like an automatic filament feeder, like any automatic filament feeder, and indeed that's exactly what it does for multicolour and multi-filament. You can put it into here, but this does something extra. It's quite a neat trick, actually. Now, I print a lot, so it's rare for me to have an open spool kicking around, but I don't always use up the spools. Sometimes I leave them for a bit, and I've noticed that they break. They do actually degrade, they do absorb moisture, and it can be a real problem if you're not using a spool time and time again so that you use it up, or if you're printing very rarely and so your spools get damp. What this is an automatic filament heater and dryer. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but if you have to buy a separate dryer and set it up, then you are spending somewhere between, I think it's $50 and $100, somewhere about there. So you're going to be buying such a thing anyway, and this comes part of the S1 combo kit. And this kit price is actually pretty reasonable, particularly when you think what it is. So having a combined feed and dryer, I thought was really neat. I thought it was clever, because you see people doing filament feeders, but this is the first one, I think, the first time anybody's thought to combine those two in one. And talk about neat. The other thing that I quite like, actually, is this. This is the active carbon filter, and as you can see, it's just a bag of carbon. The reason it's a bag of carbon is because the filter is right here at the back. It's a little flap that you take that off and you stuff that in. So you're not limited to proprietary filters that you have to buy off the shop. As long as you get a bag that big of activated carbon, I can feel it's just granules, it'll go in the filtration system. And of course, if you're printing ABS or something like that, then that's needed because it is pretty smelly. PLA, not so much of a problem. ABS, that sort of thing, much more of a problem. And so having it enclosed with a filter is, I would say, pretty essential for printing that kind of material. And then being able to buy your filter material from just about anywhere, I thought that was really neat, actually, and a fine example of thinking it through. Okay, let's find a place for this to live and put this on top. This is where it's going to live, and now we need to connect this to this. And to do that, of course, we've got a little toolkit. The toolkit consists of 3 Allen keys, which turns out to be all you actually need. Now, to connect these 2 bits, this bit is the bit that takes the filament, and it goes in the slots there. There's a couple of screws that go in there, and they're provided in a bag labelled for filament hub. Then this clicks into there, and of course there's a connecting bit between this and this, which is that one, and that clicks into there and there. When we've done that, we take this and shove it into there. Now, there is also a spool holder that goes in here, and it says if you're going to use this, don't use this, but it doesn't seem to interfere, so I'm going to stick it in there along with its own 4 spool holder bolts. There you go, that'll save me losing it. Now I've got these 4 PTFE tubes, and clearly they go in here and the bottom of here, so we insert them into there like that, and then into there. These little blue clips need removing first. Right, the little blue clips were a bit awkward. I found it easiest to swivel them up and take them out that way, but now we've got that together like that, we're apparently ready to turn it on. Okay, let's turn this bad boy on. Incidentally, this thing swivels right the way down and right the way up. It's another one of those cute little features, but we'll turn it on and let it go through its startup. This is the first time I've turned it on. The first screen is language, and of course we want English. Region global. Well, that found it. Let's input the Wi-Fi code. That's so cool. No problem at all. Let's do next. Right, probably that account unbound right there is something we have to do if we create an account with the company. So let's just go on to that from that. That's what it means by the insert U disk, and that came in the box with everything. And the place you insert it is actually just to the side here. And then start. No idea what that was. Okay, so this is its self-test, and it says it takes about 10 minutes. Okay, and that seems to be it. Let's press finish. So when you press start printing, this is what you get, and here's where you're going to find the models to print. So obviously this is what's already on the disk. If we go back, then we've got the U disk, which is the one that we just plugged in, so that's going to be SneakerNet, and then we've got a cloud that we can access. Here we've got the settings for the actual ACE print box, and we can see we've got things like drying time and drying temperature and drying time. There's nothing in there at the moment. Holder is clearly where we're doing the spool holder that we put at the back, and in order for holder to be accessible, then we need to unplug the ACE. With the ACE plugged in, holder's not accessible on the menu. There you go. Now we need to put some filament into the holder. Now they did send me 4 spools of PLA filament, and you'll notice it's a plastic spool, and they recommend plastic spools. They said that the cardboard spools will slip, but they also provide a 3D printable ring that you can print out to put on cardboard spools to avoid that, and that's actually on their Makerspace cloud. There's something else they say. You'll notice here we've got the PLA that's been bent over to hold it in place. What they say is that any of these kinks, it's not a good idea to have them, so cut them off so that it's straight from where you've cut it. So with some snips, snip it off and then feed it into the slot. And it will grab it in the slot and auto feed. When you've put the filament in, if it comes with the RFID detector, just like Bamboo, it will detect it and load the settings for you. If not, then you can press these and choose it, and you can see which filaments are actually available in the presets. TPU, incidentally, is not recommended for the ACE, in the same way with Bamboo you couldn't put TPU in. But if we go back to there, we've got PLA selected because it is PLA, and then we can choose the colour from the colour menu if it hasn't been auto-selected for you. Then, of course, we can fill the other 3 slots. So the final thing, of course, is to look at the slicer software, and it's on their so-called U-disk. Just stick it in, open up the D drive, and this is what you'll see: the user manual, the slicer that we're looking for. And if you remember those outer rings that I was talking about for cardboard reels, they're also supplied here as STL or G code. But we want the slicer, so double click on the slicer, and of course you get a choice between Mac and Windows. We're going to put it onto Windows, and there's the installation file. Double click on it and it will install. So just clicking on everything takes us to where we want to be, a new project, and there we go. Now, if you look at it, you can see it's actually just an Orca slicer. But they do say they support other things like Prusa, for instance, but most of this stuff now is actually an Orca port, and they're all looking the same. And so if you're used to Orca slicer, none of this is going to be any different. So the FlashForge AD5X uses this, the Elegoo Centauri uses this, and now, of course, we've got the Anycubic Cobra S1 using this. And so your learning curve is, in fact, quite low. And we're ready to go, to be honest. Okay, so we've got it out of the box and had a look at it, put it together. Now, it's becoming sort of de facto that these printers have a certain something. And of course, cameras and Wi-Fi are exactly what people are expecting, and of course the machine has them. Now, everybody has their own way of working. Me, I prefer USB sticks into sneakernet things. That's just me, not for any particular reason. That's how I like to work. But if you like working on Wi-Fi, then of course you can connect to the Kobra through the Wi-Fi. And the way you do it is you install the program first. And then at the top of the menu, about the third along, you'll see something called Workbench. Just click on Workbench and it will pull up the Add Printer screen. And if your printer is on your local network and has been added, then you'll be able to find that through the search. And that will give you access to be able to remotely print and to access the camera. Now, cameras, I don't know why people go ape for them. There was a little while when people were taking shots of the prints so you could watch it grow, when it was quite a popular thing. Everybody's doing it at the moment. I actually find it a little bit tedious, and so don't bother. If somebody, in fact, does a video with that, I skip through that part because I find it a little tedious. But if that's what you want to do, then by all means do it. Of course, there is such a thing as remote access, so you can see whether your print's going squiffy or not. But then with AI detection of spaghetti jet failures and that sort of thing, the cameras, as far as I'm concerned, are becoming more obsolete, but it is included in the package. Now, one of the things that I think is that what makes the machine special, because the slicer itself is just a port of Orca slicer, and of course it does everything that it does in the same way as any other Orca slicer. So the multicolor function is the same as any other multicolor function, and we have covered it in a previous video, so I don't plan on doing it now because, you know, it's easy to look that video up or other people's videos to discover how to do that, and it's not particularly challenging. So what is it that makes this stand out in my eyes? Well, the first thing has got to be that combined unit, the multi-feed. Now, you can do multi-material, multi-color if you want, or you can do all the same, but pack it out with bulk and printing 4 kilos instead of 1. So it gives a great deal of versatility. Being able to combine it with the heater, I personally think is a stroke of genius. Because if you're using materials that are moisture sensitive, well, it solves that problem and gives you a wider range of materials you can use. And if you're printing with time apart when your PLA is going to absorb moisture, then of course you can cure that problem, and that will make the prints that much better. So combining that into one unit, I actually think is a bit of a no-brainer. I don't know why anybody else has never done it before, but Anycubic have done it, and that is an awesome addition. So that's going to be top of the list. I mean, there are a few other cute things. I do like the way the screen folds all the way down and is positioned at the top. I suspect that's done because they're hoping to hit the print farms. And another thing, of course, is price point. Price point is always an issue. And when you think about what you're paying for the Anycubic and you compare it to something like, I don't know, the Bamboo, for instance, then you're, I would say, certainly getting more value for money given the price point of the Anycubic and its functionality. So there's a lot of things going for it there that I think are worth investigating. Of course, they are having this 10th anniversary, which apparently they're taking very seriously. So I've put a link in the bottom to their anniversary page, and it's in the description. And if you jump across, you'll find they're doing things like competitions to give away a Cobra combo. There's PLA bits and pieces, coupons, and flash sales, and they've got something called the memory tree. So there's a whole load of things that they're doing to celebrate their 10th anniversary, and they're proud of what they've been doing, and I think rightly so, to be honest. It is a nice machine, and I'm looking forward to using it. So we've gone through a lot of stuff in this video, and it's taken a considerable amount of time. We still need to print something out on it and compare that print. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's going to be done in the next video, and we'll give a bit of comparison. But I use these printers very heavily indeed. I mean, you're talking almost 24/7. So in about 6 months or so, or maybe even 3 months, I'll have a much better feel for what that printer is actually capable of. You're never going to be able to tell what it's actually capable of within sort of, 5 minutes or so. You need some real time with the machine for that. Now, I'm not expecting any problems, not particularly. And the same with all of these printers. but you really can talk about them as knowing them after 3 to 6 months of using them. So let's get some prints done and compare it. Let's get some real printing done and give a review on it in, say, 3 to 6 months, when we'll know whether it's good or not for certain. But as we get it out of the box and look at its functionality, then I would say it's looking very promising indeed and could well be the printer you want to think about. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please watch out for more on the Anycubic. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to like and subscribe.